What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. So today, I want to take a look at the AP Top 25 preseason rankings, and there's going to be much consternation. There's going to be much anguish as we go through them, and I want to give you some takeaways on those things. But first, I want to start with some facts here, courtesy of Ralph Russo, who writes about college football for the Associated Press, for which we get this poll. And one of the reasons that I really love rankings, I love all rankings, but I really love the Associated Press poll rankings because those are the ones that are most trustworthy. All of the folks that get a vote in there among the media members, for the most part, on the level, don't really have a team, don't really have a bias, and they really do treat this as if it is very important. And there are a number of things that I thought were interesting to point out that I read about. The first of which is you're going to see teams in the SEC, Big 12, and ACC, but you're also going to see teams in the Big 10 and the Pac-12 in these rankings. And that is really going to lead to Ohio State hanging a banner because we know that the Pac-12 and the Big 10 aren't playing football this year. And what Russo made a point of putting into the article, and he was very clear about this on Twitter, his bosses make this decision. When the season starts, if the season starts, the Buckeyes and 53 other bowl subdivision teams will no longer be eligible for inclusion in the top 25 because they have postponed their seasons to the spring. That means that the likes of Ohio State, Penn State, who are both in the, top 10, and Oregon, who's also in the top 10, they're not going to be considered after we start playing football. So this also means that games that we were all looking forward to have also been scrapped completely, notably Ohio State and Oregon. That's a number 2 team versus a number 9 team. Notre Dame and Wisconsin, number 10 versus number 12. Then we get, that was in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. Man, I missed that one. Texas versus LSU. That's number 14 at number 6. USC versus Alabama. That's number 17 versus number 3. And then Auburn at North Carolina, I was really interested in, going to be played in Atlanta. That was going to be number 11 versus number 18. See, I already started talking about the rankings without talking about the rankings. So let's just go through the rankings, then let's get back to the takeaways. So, number 1, Clemson. Back-to-back years, they are the preseason number 1 team. They finished last year as the number 2 team after losing the College Football Playoff National Championship game to LSU, 42-25. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and others going to make them tough in the ACC and probably just pencil them in the College Football Playoff if we get there. Number 2, Ohio State. 13-1 last year. They take the loss to Clemson. It's really close. They were really talking about perhaps a Jeff Okudah interception rather than incompletion, or Chris Olave not slipping, not breaking off his route, being the difference between winning and losing that game. Number 3, Alabama. I have no issues with this whatsoever. I'm talking myself into the Mac Jones experience because that man has been good for the 3 starts that he was in. Yes, the pick 6 is really against Auburn, frowned upon. But one of those was not really his fault, and he finished the season with 2 back-to-back 300-yard passing performances against the number 15 and number 14 teams in college football, respectively. Auburn and Michigan were no slouches last year. And then Alabama gets Dylan Moses back. You know what Najee Harris is. You know what Jalen Waddle is. You know what Devontae Smith is, along with Patrick Surtain Jr. I really expect Nick Saban to be very good once again. Steve Sarkisian getting a raise that's going to pay him more than most, head coaches as the offense coordinator at Alabama. Pete Golding goes into a year in which he gets back some toys after having one time in October where he had to start 4 true freshmen in his front 7. They're going to be so much better this year with basically a year of playing and experience under their belts. Number 4, we got Georgia. 12-2, right? Losses to, you guessed it, right? We got losses to friggin', I can't believe you start off to South Carolina, right? That's something else entirely, right? Got jacked for your hedges. But then you take an L in the SEC championship game to the eventual national champs. And now with Todd Monken, store-brand Cam Newton, who might not be as good as I want him to be at quarterback, JT Daniels, once he gets cleared, maybe he competes for the job. And that Dan Lanning, Kirby Smart defense is the same that it was. Monty Rice, Eric Stokes, they're going to be pretty good. Number 5, Oklahoma. Now, I didn't have Oklahoma ranked this highly. I had Oklahoma as a number 7 team. But that speaks to just how much people not only believe in Lincoln Riley and his ability to just put quarterbacks out there that can play. Spencer Rattler, you understand, is the heir apparent to the throne. The last 3 starting quarterbacks that Lincoln has had were drafted in the first or second rounds. Also, the worst of those 3 finished as a Heisman runner-up. The other 2 won the Heisman Trophy, and are number 1 overall picks. That's what you're inheriting. But there is no Kennedy Brooks. There is no Trey Sermon. Now, I was talking to someone that works in college football and is an assistant coach at a Power 5 squad, and he was saying, look, Oklahoma's 3 running backs that they have might actually be the best 3 that have been recruited in the last 4 years, right? Talking about Ramondre Stevenson, Seth McGowan, and Marcus Major. Seth McGowan and Marcus Major are going to have to step up and play. TJ Pledger also going to have to step up and play. This is a big year for Oklahoma. And I want to get to this question that I was given about Trey Sermon and transferring back here in a little bit, but also this speaks to what you believe about Alex Grinch's defense. After losing Neville Gallimore, who was a 3rd-round draft pick, after losing Kenneth Murray Jr., who was a 1st-round draft pick, after losing Parnell Motley, who opened his practice with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as an undrafted cornerback by picking off Tom Brady, there were some questions that need to be answered, but I think with Pat Fields, with Deshaun White, with Trey Brown, with De'Aaron Turner-Yell all returning, you know what you have in LaRon Stokes. We'll see what happens with Jalen Redmond. There's good reason to believe that Oklahoma's a top 10 team. Number 5, I think it's a little bit pushing it, especially when you look at number 6, LSU. Cry about it, LSU fans. Oklahoma ranked number 5, LSU ranked number 6. I don't care whether or not you think that this is fair. It ain't about fair. It's about what the voters think. And they, like I, notice you lost 14 draft picks to last year's team, 5 in the 1st round. You lost Joe Burrow. You're going to start a Miles Brennan dude that we don't trust. You return Jamar Chase. You return Tyler Shelvin. You return Derek Stingley Jr. But that's it. You lost Marcel Brooks to Texas Christian. Terry Vincent is going to opt out. Like, we continue to look around this, they're going to have more new faces at LSU than an integrated high school. And y'all somehow think that this team is going to finish at number 6? Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Could catch 5 losses this year. Penn State, man, number 7. Look, you take a loss that you probably shouldn't have taken to a Michigan squad, and you take a loss to an Ohio State squad that railroaded you. I'll never forget, 92 yards to open that game, all running the football right down Penn State's throat with outstanding defensive line talent and Micah Parsons, but it doesn't even matter because they don't get to play football this year. Number 8, Florida. They are a world's largest cocktail party win away from actually competing for the SEC championship, and I think that it would have been interesting to me to see Oklahoma and Florida right up against each other because we're talking about 2 teams that were about the same last year. Florida coming on strong to beat the hell out of Virginia in the Orange Bowl. Oklahoma losing the Peach Bowl. Kyle Trask is in a prove-it year. Spencer Rattler is going to basically get the mulligan with the NCAA eligibility rule coming into play. But I was really interested to see what would happen with Florida. They could have been as high as a number 6 team to me. They're that good. Even losing C.J. Henderson, even losing Jonathan Grenard, even losing Zabari Zuniga. Kyle Pitts could be the best tight end in college football this year. Number 9, Oregon. Golly, there's another team that I wanted to see play in the worst way with Justin Flo, with Noah Sewell, with Kayvon Thibodeau. You were going to have grad transfer Anthony Brown going at it with Tyler Shuck for the starting quarterback job. Joe Moorhead in his first year as offensive coordinator. Mario Cristobal was going into a magic year after winning the Rose Bowl and being a loss from perhaps Auburn. Definitely Utah from playing in the college football playoff, right? Gonna have to wait to see what that looks like next year. Notre Dame at number 10. I'm not real into Notre Dame this year because I really don't think that Ian Book's any more than perhaps Jake Fromm 2.0. And I don't know who the starting tailback is going to be, and I don't know if that person is going to be any good. I have every reason to believe that Chris Tyree could be that guy. But until he's that guy, I'm not going to buy into it. You also have a pretty good offensive line. But Clark Lee's defense is going to have to show me something other than what Kyle Hamilton can do. And now that you're playing in the ACC, you have to prove it year in and year out. You got the one non-conference game, and then Clemson's on your schedule. It could be Clemson and Notre Dame in the ACC championship game. It could be Clemson and North Carolina. We'll just have to wait and see. But Brian Kelly's got a squad, and he wants to run them. Number 11, Auburn. 9-4 last year, but man, they had a tough schedule, right? And everybody wants to count Malzahn's squad out. I'm bullish on Malzahn. I'm not on Bo Nix, but let me get to that in a second. Malzahn has been great when he's had a defense. Kevin Steele has been providing that defense. When he had Derek Brown and Big Cat Bryant and Owen Papo last year, they were really good. This year, he returns Owen Papo. You're going to have to come up with something else in the middle of that defense, but Big Cat Bryant is still there. And I think that Kalen Newton could usurp Bo Nix as a starting quarterback at Auburn, especially with Chad Morris calling the plays. Because remember, when Chad Morris has a quarterback, he's good. When he had Deshaun Watson, they were elite. When he had Taj Boyd, they were elite. All right? It's like that. I mean, he's been able to make Kelly Bryant sing. If you give him a quarterback, he's going to be okay. And I think that Kalen Newton, who was an FCS All-American at Howard and Cam Newton's little brother, gives you that opportunity. Number 12, Wisconsin, another team we're not going to get to see play. They were going to be into an interesting year in which they were going to start a new tailback, and we all know that they want to run the ball and play defense. Jim Leonard's defense gets the year off. Well, I see the year off. They're going to come back in the spring. We'll see how they look. Texas A&M at number 13. It's all about what the hell does Kellen Mond look like. As my man Colin Kennedy put it, this dude has had an identity crisis without his identity being stolen. And yet, here we are once again having this conversation about ampersand U. I need ampersand U to do something, right? Because 8-5 feels like what they're just going to be. I don't see 10 wins for this squad, especially in the SEC, and having just the one, no, not even the one non-conference schedule, because the SEC is going conference only. They could end up 5-5. We'll just have to wait and see. Texas at number 14 is a little too low for me. Like, I would even suggest Texas could be a top 10 team based on what we know about Texas, right? You return Sam Ehlinger at quarterback. You get a 5-star tailback and one of the best players in 2020 in Bijan Robinson to help fill out guys like Keontae Ingram and Roshan Johnson. Malcolm Epps moves to tight end. Jake Smith and Jordan Whittington can play in your slot. Brendan Eagles can be on the outside. Defensively, you're going to Chris Ashes, match quarters. Caden Stearns can absolutely play. Josh Thompson can absolutely play. Joseph Asai can absolutely play. And we're not talking nearly enough about Vernon Broughton and what kind of a defensive end he could be for them, along with guys like Alfred Collins. This is the year for Texas if there's going to be a year. This is the year you beat Oklahoma. This is the year that you make the Big 12 championship game. But Texas' legacy has been doing the least with the most. So we're looking at 8-5, number 14. Think about that. Ampersand U and Texas and Oklahoma State are all grouped together, 13, 14, and 15, all went 8-5 last year. Oklahoma State, it's about Spencer Sanders at number 15. If he is still the turnover machine that he was last year, they're looking at that same record because he needs to be able to exist between those 2 seconds between the snap and him handing Chuba Hubbard the ball. And when he's not doing that, throw it up to Tylan Wallace because he's the second coming of Dez Bryant, of Justin Blackman for them. And then there is Jim Knowles' defense, which I think could be even better than it was last year. They were remarkably good. They who knew who they are. They get Calvin Bundage back. They have Malcolm Rodriguez playing in the middle now. They get Colby Harvell-Peel back. They ought to be good. But how good? Good enough to beat Texas? Maybe. Good enough to beat Oklahoma? They looked that way in 2018. Failed 2-point conversion in Norman. We'll see. Michigan, 9-4 last year. Not going to get to play. Probably best for them anyway, because they need the extra time to get Dylan McCaffrey or Joe Milton in a position to play ball in the spring. I think that the quarterback position is a problem for them. To say nothing of Don Brown's defense, where that dude is running 3 high safeties against Army. Okay? USC, number 17. 8-5 last year. We expected them to be bad. We expected Clay Helton to get fired. Then you go and beat Utah with a third-string quarterback in Matt Fink. Keaton Slovis comes out of nowhere to be one of the better quarterbacks in college football and certainly a better true freshman quarterback than Bo Nix. Didn't see that coming. And then you get to return other dudes like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kyle Ford, my goodness, Brew McCoy, running Graham Harrell's air raid. You have Todd Orlando and his blitz everything package with Chris Steele on the back end as your lockdown corner. They're going to be fun in the spring if they get to play in the spring. North Carolina went 7-6 last year, but it's the best 7-6 team that I have seen in a very long time. They were a failed 2-point conversion away from beating, right? From beating Clemson. Now, say what you want about that, but I think going into this year with Sam Howell having the best true freshman season of anybody last year and passing for 3,800 yards, and you have Phil Longo as your offensive coordinator, Jay Bateman as your defensive coordinator, Dre Bly as your cornerbacks coach, Tony Grimes, people forget, reclassified from 2021 to 2020 so he could play at North Carolina. Mac Brown continues to recruit his butt off. They're going to be good. Okay. Minnesota, oh man, 11-2 last year. The best season they've had since 1962. They debut in the preseason top 25. They don't get to play till the spring. That's going to suck. Really want to see what Tanner Morgan can do without Rashad Bateman. and what their defense looked like without Antoine Winfield Jr. Cincinnati making their first preseason top 25 poll in the history of the program. A lot of Ohio State fans going to be pulling for Luke Fickell and the boys down there in Cincinnati this year. They went 11-3 last year. They had they got beat by Memphis twice in a row, and they got to be able to overcome that. And yet it's them that people are picking and not Memphis. I want to talk about that a little later. Central Florida goes 10-3 last year. One of those losses to my alma mater, University of Tulsa, in Tulsa. Should have never happened. Should have never happened. But Dylan Gabriel was a true freshman last year. He returns. We'll see if Mackenzie Milton is actually the guy this year. If he is, expect them to make some noise in the American. I expect it to be a 4-horse race in the American. Could be the most fun conference in all of college football this year with SMU, Cincinnati, Memphis, and Central Florida. Iowa State at number 23, another 7-6 squad, making the top 25. Brock Purdy coming off of a year in which he set a school record for passing yards. You get Breece Hall in the backfield again, and John Haycock's defense continues to give Big 12 offensive coordinators fits. Iowa at number 24 after going 10-3. Another Big 10 team we're not going to get to see play in the fall. And then Tennessee at number 25. Their game with Oklahoma gets scrapped when everybody restructures their schedule, but you had reason to believe that Tennessee could be good in 2020. Could it be good enough to win the SEC East Division? I don't think so. Others receiving votes, Memphis with 86. Again, I thought that was a top 25 team. Might even knock out an Iowa State or a Cincinnati to put them there. Virginia Tech got 85. Well, not votes, but points. Boise State got 68. Arizona State got 66. Man, I want to see them play this year. Miami got 42. Louisville got 32. Appalachian State at 26 has more votes or more points per vote than Washington, Kentucky, Indiana, Baylor, California, Texas Christian, Virginia, Navy, Florida State, SMU, Mississippi State, Air Force, Northwestern, and UAB. Also, who the hell voted for UAB?